In today's video, I'm going to give you an update on the latest Solana DeFi applications that I'm using, including some that have active points programs and are highly likely to do an airdrop in the future. Welcome back to Dynamo DeFi. My name is Patrick. As a reminder, nothing in this video is financial advice. This is purely for educational purposes about how to use different decentralized finance applications on one of the fastest growing blockchains. Now let's get into it. Now this is going to have some overlap with my video about 12 Solana airdrops, if you happen to see that one. However, there's been some important updates since then, and this is also going to go through some general DeFi strategies that I'm using on Solana, separate from simply just qualifying for airdrops, although we're definitely going to talk about that as well. Cool, so let's look at some applications in Solana now. First one that I'm still farming pretty heavily, and I've been farming this one since I first talked about it in September, is MarginFi. MarginFi is the largest lending platform on Solana and one of the largest DeFi applications on Solana, nearly $400 million of deposits now. I don't remember what it was at when we first looked at it on this channel. It was definitely under 100 million. I want to say it was like 50, 60, 70 million, something like that, maybe even lower. It's grown a lot. So the challenge with this is you can still earn points, still deposit, is that it's obviously gotten much larger, and there's a lot of people, me included, including many people on this channel, who have now been farming points since September. So if you're just starting, unless you're throwing in a ton of money, it's going to be tough to catch up, right? Unless they wait another 6 months to do the snapshot, which I think would be a mistake. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to catch up to those of us who have already accumulated billions of points. However, it doesn't mean you can't accumulate something, and this is definitely an airdrop that I'd want to get. I mean, this is basically Aave for Solana. Aave at its peak was worth billions and billions of dollars. It's the largest lending market on Ethereum. So I think MarginFi, if Solana continues to grow, would be a token that would be good to have. And so this is a platform that I would absolutely want to use. And the thing is, even if you're not farming it, it can still be useful. And I'll show you how. So for example, suppose you're holding Solana, right? You may want to hold Solana. You could deposit JITO-SOL or M-SOL in here. And then you can actually borrow against it. And so this is something I'm using partially because I'm farming MarginFi for airdrops. So I'm depositing JITO-SOL or M-SOL, and then I'm borrowing funds with a reasonable amount of leverage. I'm not trying to get liquidated, right? I'm talking like 20, 25% here, guys. And then I'm actually using those borrowed funds to farm some of these other applications that we will talk about today. So basically I am earning yield on my JITO-SOL, and then I am also earning yield on the borrowed funds, and then I'm qualifying for airdrops. Now, when you borrow, you don't, unless you borrow USDC and then swap it for SOL, you're not necessarily going to keep the rewards if you're borrowing SOL and keeping it as SOL. However, you can keep the yield and you can keep the airdrops. So that's another way this can be useful. Even if you think that you're behind on MarginFi, you can actually use your same funds in multiple places. And so I'm doing that. I'm depositing a lot of JITO-SOL here, and I'm borrowing against it. In the past videos, I talked about looping this. I'm still doing a little bit of that. Since I was never using crazy leverage, as I talked about in the video, but since there was the issue where M-SOL briefly depegged, then regained its peg, and some people were liquidated, I'm definitely avoiding the looping strategy quite as much because things can happen in volatile markets. But then I'm taking some of those funds from MarginFi, as well as some principal funds just from elsewhere. And then I'm also farming Kamino. Kamino is the second largest lending market on Solana, and it's grown a lot in truth. And you can see here, if you look at the top supply ones, we've got $39 million, $36 million, $26 million, and so on. This has hundreds of millions of dollars as well. And so this is another large lending platform. Time will tell, maybe once they launch their points program, because if you look, it says it's coming soon. But maybe they'll be able to overtake MarginFi. But in the meantime, can start farming it as well. And then hopefully once they do points, they do something retroactive, like some sort of bonus for people who were there ahead of time. And what I'm doing here is you can supply things to borrow, and you can also provide liquidity. And what I'm doing mainly is I'm providing liquidity through them, as well as lending out some funds. They also have this function here, multiply, where you can basically do a leveraged yield farming strategy earn 22% APY on your BSOL by using a yield loop. I think that's pretty cool. I think that maybe appeals to some people. Personally, to me, when you have these tokens going up as much as they are, it feels kind of risky, right? It feels a little bit risky compared to just trying to farm the airdrop, right? But you know, it's still a pretty cool feature and would probably qualify you for the airdrop. But I'm not doing multiply personally. Next platform I'm using is Meteora. Meteora is a yield optimization platform on Solana. You can deposit single-sided assets and then it distributes them across all these different platforms like Vault Reserve, MarginFi, Drift, Tulip, etc. And then you earn yield. And the yield is not that crazy on these things. However, Meteora doesn't have a token. And I like protocols that don't have tokens because that means you're basically pre-farming it. When a protocol doesn't have a token, what you're really doing is you're pre-farming it. So you're depositing funds here now, and then if and when they launch a token eventually, the idea is that you would probably get rewarded. And so I'm deploying some of my liquid staking SOL here. This is a much smaller position than my Kamino or MarginFi, but I want to make sure I'm exposed to all of these things. And you can see kind of what I'm doing is I'm taking liquid stake SOL and I'm deploying it into all these different protocols. You know, yes, I do some trading of these small degen coins, but largely I'm just taking my liquid stake SOL, I'm deploying it to these different protocols with the idea that when you get airdrops, then you can maybe hold some of that, maybe sell some of that back into liquid stake SOL, and then just keep repeating the process with all these other protocols. And that worked out really well with Jito, got a really nice Jito airdrop, and then was able to convert most of that back into liquid stake SOL and then just deploy it into more airdrop farming applications. Next one I'm doing is Drift. Drift is a leverage trading platform, and basically you deposit funds on here, you connect your wallet, and then you'll have the button here to deposit once you connect your wallet. Let's see, it says I'm in restricted territory right now, but if you're in the US, you'll have to use a VPN to get around it. But depositing here, and then it'll automatically start lending it out. And same thing, you can deposit liquid staking funds. Your APR is not going to be too great. However, you are contributing to the protocol, and then on top of that, maybe you want to trade some perps, right? I'm trading a bit of perps, nothing crazy. Some of these protocols that I like, I've talked about on this channel, like TIA, like I haven't talked about it on this channel. I talk about it on Twitter a lot. That was HNT, Helium, protocols like that I like. I'm just trading small, relatively small percent of my portfolio of these tokens to get some volume on the exchange, and also to increase my exposure to those tokens. So those are sort of how I'm using my liquid stake SOL. Next protocol that's really interesting, that I think I talked about it in the airdrop video, maybe not, but they just came out with a points program, which they didn't have before, and that's Parcl. And Parcl is cool because basically it builds something that you can't do easily outside of crypto right now, and that is getting real-time exposure to different real estate markets with leverage. So for example, you can trade the London real estate market, the Miami real estate market, Boston real estate market. And I think that's pretty cool how they're trying to actually build something that is really useful. And they have a lot of cool, interesting gamified features here. They've got this asset dash contest, and then they've got their point system, and they have this real estate royale thing that's going on as well. But we're going to talk about the point system here. So to get the point system, there's three main ways you get them. First is deposit into their liquidity pools. Second is to trade on Parcl. And the third is to refer friends. By the way, if you do want to use this, I'll include down in the description as well, but my referral code is Dynamo, like the name of this channel, Dynamo, and you'll get a 5% boost on your points if you use this referral code. So if you're going to earn points anyways, might as well get a 5% boost. Remember, code is Dynamo. All right, yeah, so that's the Parcl points program. They also have an NFT that gives you a boost on points and transparency. I own a few of those, but I don't think you really need those. If you're just going to deposit some funds, you can provide liquidity, or you can trade. Liquidity, you can see, actually earns points faster than trading in terms of dollar value. So if you deposit $100 of liquidity, you get 300 points a day. No knowing exactly what those will end up being worth, but I think it's a pretty interesting protocol, and I think it's pretty underfarmed because it only has $11 million of total value locked. So this is definitely one that I'm interested in as well. This is not DeFi, but I'm also using the Solana Tensor marketplace. It's the leading NFT marketplace on Solana. Recently, a few days ago, Solana actually flipped Ethereum in NFT volume for several days. So I think that the largest NFT marketplace is probably something that could be pretty lucrative, especially if the NFT market comes back in general. And they have an ongoing points program for trading the top 100 projects or for holding their collection Tensorians. Now, Tensorians are relatively expensive. They're 117 Sol. However, you can still get points by trading some of these other collections in the top 100 that are smaller. And then the final thing that I'm looking at as far as DeFi on Solana is that Jupiter aggregator. So I'm using this for all my swaps. Just makes sense, right? You can do limit orders, you can DCA, you can swap, and they've only done 1 out of their 3 airdrops, so I think that it's likely they do another one. However, what I think is really interesting is they have this JLP pool, and I wish I'd gotten in because the APR has been crazy with all this trading, 104% APR. Basically, this is a liquidity provider for their perpetuals platform. But I have a theory. My theory is that when they do their second and third airdrops, I think that they are going to reward people at least proportionally more who contribute to their perpetual platform. That's just a theory, but I think they're going to reward people who do that. Seems to me like they are moving towards not just being an aggregator, but actually having funds deposited on their platform itself. That's why they now have $23 million of total value locked, and that's at the limit, right? So if they raised it, it would go up even more. And as a reminder, if you didn't see my Solana airdrop video, or you want a refresher on some of the other opportunities, I have an entire free worksheet that I made that just has checklists, in fact, of potential airdrops on the Solana ecosystem and what you can do to likely qualify for that. I'm constantly updating or changing this, so I'll link this down in the description. Check it out. And if you want more videos like this one, be sure to like and subscribe. Until next time, this is Dynamo DeFi.